you're a Sonic fan, you're probably very familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog video game sequels. Games that come to mind are probably Sonic 2, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Advance 2. If I'm missing any more 2s, let me know, I probably am. But there are plenty of more Sonic the Hedgehog sequels that don't have the number 2 at the end. There are so many, it's ridiculous. Both good, bad, and forgotten. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. While there are plenty of forgotten sequels out there, I think there is one in particular that is just so interesting. A lot of these forgotten sequels are, usually pushed to the side because there are bigger projects down the line that people have knowledge of, or maybe it followed up something, or maybe it was just silently released. Games like Sonic Rush Adventure did not sell well because it was just another handheld title. I don't think anybody goes back to Sonic Drift 2, oh boy. But those games are over 10, 20 years old. Of course, they might be forgotten in time. But there is one sequel that is under 5 years old that seems to have been completely forgotten. That game I'm talking about is Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. We all know the absolute roller coaster that was Sonic Boom. What we thought was the future, our brand new highway to our awesome new house, was really just a horrible detour that led us into a forest where we ran into a bunch of trees to where we eventually got back on track. It was not great for the name Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think it has done the most damage to Sonic's name over the past 30 years than anything else has. After the colossal failures of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, Shattered Crystal, the TV show had a decent start but ran into the ground because of its horrible time slot. Fans weren't willing to get up at 6:30 every Saturday anymore. Sega still went forward with Sonic Boom, trying to squeeze everything they could out of it, maybe have somewhat of a redemption arc, and part of that attempt to have a redemption was this, Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. We were all very surprised when this was announced, and I have never seen a fan base more than when this was announced. Part of the reason for this, I feel, is because around this time, Sonic fans were very excited and giddy for Sonic Mach 2, a popular leak, quote-unquote, going around the Sonic the Hedgehog community, that a lot of us expected to be a new 3D title, almost something like a Sonic Unleashed or Generations follow-up, but no, Mach 2 turned out to be this game, so let's check it out. The trailer for this game just dropped out of nowhere. After everything that happened with this franchise, I think all of us were very surprised that they were going to take another crack at it, and with this slated fall release date, it wasn't that far away. Not everybody was too excited for it, honestly. It was from Sansora Games. They made Shattered Crystal, which was not great. Yeah, it was the lesser of two evils, but still. Do any of you guys go back to play Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal? People just didn't have a lot of faith in this thing, but Sega announced that they were going to delay this thing. That never really happened around this time, so I think Sega taking their time to add some extra polish really gave some hope. It was even more shocking because the marketing campaign was already in full swing. They had a Hardy/Carl's Jr. promotion for kids meals. I actually have all of those toys, because I'm SpeedSuperSonic. I waste my money on Sonic merch. I feel bad for the kids who got these toys and are really excited for this game, later to find out that the game would release in September of the following year. Not only was this game releasing the following year, but this would count as the 25th anniversary title. That's right, this game is in the same ballpark as Sonic Generations, Sonic 06, Sonic Adventure 2. That's just crazy to think about. That's right, Mania and Forces never really were advertised as a 25th anniversary game. They were just the next Sonic games, and they released a year after. This actually had 25th anniversary branding on it. So was the wait worth it? Yes, because the game came with 3 episodes of the Sonic Boom TV show. That's right, this game was more closely related to the TV show than the earlier games. Those were prequels, and they had their own story and tone. It was so drastically different from the main TV show, it didn't even feel like part of the same world. But this game follows much more closely to the TV show's canon and lore, if you want to call it lore, I don't know. In fact, the production value in terms of storytelling is much better here. There's actual voice acting and cutscenes, no matter how weird they look. Knuckles still has just bunched in his mouth, it's gross. But let's take a look at the story real quick. I love going over Sonic stories because they're so stupid. The story begins with Dr. Eggman discovering this supercharged element called Ragnium. It's on this little island called Ragnarok. You get it, Ragnarok. It's very brief. We eventually transition over to Sonic and Amy, who've discovered these looming weather patterns that, if left unchecked, can bring the end to the world. You'd think with these very scary conditions that they'd might be extra care. No, they actually disrupt the fissures, but thankfully for them, it infuses their communicator with elemental energies that grant them new fire and ice powers. With these powers, they're able to seal the fissure, and it actually slightly stabilizes the local weather. Tails notices this, so they're gonna go meet up with him, but on their way there, they meet this little guy named Defect. If you guys paid attention to any of the marketing, you would have definitely seen Defect before the release. I mean, he's on the box. He's actually the main antagonist of the game. He's been granted these powers beyond the intended purpose, and now is sought to defeat Sonic the Hedgehog, only to wound up with the team later in the game, but we'll get to that later. When we first meet Defect, Amy makes this fourth wall break about merchandising.
He'd make a great action figure if our adventures were ever merchandised.
But the thing is, they never merchandise Defect. Look how marketable this little guy is. You could have made so much merch of him. Plushies, figures, maybe some other things like a keychain, I don't know. There wasn't a single piece of Defect merchandise, and that makes me upset. If you guys can start the hashtag merch for Defect on Twitter, that'd be great. Tell them I sent you. The rest of the game, they set off on an adventure and use their fire and ice powers to close all these fissures to save the world. With the occasional typical Dr. Eggman, Sonic and friends running into each other, hijinks, Defect being abused. This is not okay. It's not the greatest Sonic story in the world. In fact, it's pretty lazy, but honestly I can't expect too much from a 3DS game. They only had so much to work with. You can only have so many CGI cutscenes, which, let me say, there are plenty of in this game, and they look fantastic. Not even mainline console Sonic games have these many CGI cutscenes. But even the non-CGI ones look great. I mean, for what you get with a 3DS. It reminds me of Sonic Rush Adventure, but this time there's actual voice acting. No text bubbles, none of that. I loved this. I wish that more Sonic games did this. I'm looking at you, Team Sonic Racing, and half of Sonic Forces. What are you doing, you little goofy balls? But of course we have to look at the game itself. We can't just look at story and cutscenes. So what's the game actually like? How does it play? Well, one of the biggest complaints with Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal was the fact that the game was so long. All the levels required exploration and so much redundant bullshit that just made it a miserable experience and not fun to play at all. I don't know a single person who goes back to Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal. You still hear Rise of Lyric from time to time, but people just choose to forget Shattered Crystal because honestly, it's so forgettable. You guys know how much I hate Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, but I am not joking with you when I say that I would much rather play that game than play Shattered Crystal again. But I'm happy to say that while Fire and Ice has some similarities, it's much more refined. It plays much more like the classic Sonic game. Obviously not exactly, physics and all that stuff is very, very different. You have plenty of different characters to choose from. You're able to play as Amy this time around, which is very cool. It's much more fast paced and way more fun to go through. And that's what I really measure games on. If the game's fun for me, that's it. If you guys know me, I am not a big video game guy. I don't like all the technicalities. If it's fun, it's fun. If it's not, it's not. And while this isn't the funnest game I've ever played in my entire life, it's still a good time, and it was much more engaging and entertaining than a game like Shattered Crystal. And with all of that, this game actually received a lot of positive feedback. It got a 7.5 on IGN, which is way better than I think anybody expected. There were plenty of reasons to buy it. It was the first Sonic game in a little bit, but yet it was entirely forgotten. It did not sell well. It's not talked about anymore. So what happened? Well, as I stated, due to this game's delay, it released in 2016, the year of the 25th anniversary. And that year they held a 25th anniversary party. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. The giant shadow of Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces announcements pretty much destroyed any chance Sonic Boom Fire and Ice had at succeeding. Nobody cared about Sonic Boom anymore. People were ready for those two new games, Lego Dimensions Sonic, all of that stuff. Nobody cared about Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. At that event, you were able to play Sonic Mania for the very first time. When it was time for Sonic Boom Fire and Ice to be shown off a little more, everybody left to go play Mania. It was evident that nobody cared about Sonic Boom anymore. That time period for Sonic left such a bad taste in everybody's mouth, I think people just wanted to forget it. It was time for the future, and people wanted to experience that instead. In addition to that, it doesn't help that the 3DS was on a decline at the time, because everybody was waiting for the new Nintendo Switch, known at the time as the NX. And it doesn't help that the game carried the name Sonic Boom, which is held in infamy now. This thing was just doomed to fail. Same developers that delivered a very lackluster game only 2 years back, being overshadowed, carrying all that weight, having a delay. It wasn't a perfect storm, it was the absolute worst kind of storm. The game was not bad, it's pretty alright actually, but all of this stuff combined just makes for a game that was completely forgotten. It didn't do anything special enough to be remembered, and unfortunately, it's a game that people wanted to forget.